Hello everyone, this is Ross from retrodreambeam. I'm an eBay seller full-time. I've been doing this with my fiancé Netta for more than 3 years now. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm about to go into what we're shipping out today on Tuesday, but I want to talk about, we had 2 negatives and a return. So the first thing I'll talk about is the return right here. This was the return. When I get a return, I wait until the item comes, and I actually want to check that I got like the item that we sent, because if someone send something back open and used, if it was new, you actually have the ability to keep some of the money back for that. There's like different policies and stuff you can read when you're giving returns back to people. So I checked basically to see, did I get the item? This one I did get the item. I was not too surprised about this one. My listing was very, very, very clear. So this is what it was. This is going to be like the wraparound little cover for one of these SPI board games. They come with a wraparound cover, and then they have a token tray with all the bits and pieces and sometimes maps in between. That's just like how these board games were designed. Sometimes they'll even have like a cover lid. Sometimes they don't. So I listed just this wraparound. My pictures were clear. There was 12 pictures. They were all at like angles showing that this is just, you know, the wraparound for replacement. My description says this is not the board game. There's no other pieces. This is for replacement for your cover if your cover gets damaged or ruined. The first like 25 characters or something of the title was wraparound only, and then like the game name, and then a wrap only. So like it was literally almost half of the characters were saying it was just this only. So they end up doing a return saying, complaining that it was not as described. It should have been the board game and stuff like that. So when I was like, okay, we'll just do a return. I apologize. I said like, I basically did like a basic apology. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. We have returns on, free shipping, all that. Not a big deal. You know, we don't get many returns for like boxes and board games and incomplete stuff. This is probably like our second one ever. So it will happen. I've started messaging people with the incomplete stuff. Like just, you know, I try not to be condescending because I know some people will be like, yeah, I already knew, I already read it. So I always give like a gentle little, like a tag, like, hey, just so you know, I've had some issues with some of the stuff. So it's incomplete or missing these cards. And most people will be like, okay, it's fine. So this person said the item was not described. So I actually contested that. They also landed a negative feedback. So it was like back-to-back thing. They landed negative feedback. We contested it. We got it removed because they said that the item was completely not described properly. Our whole listing is properly describing it. So we won the getting rid of the negative for this one. And then I had the option for keeping some of the shipping. I just said, nah, I'm just gonna, I'll give them all the money back and then move on. Block that buyer. They only had one feedback, so we're their only eBay purchase. So like they're gonna think eBay is gonna be a disaster and horrible, even though they just didn't do their due diligence on the listing. I would normally take accountability if it was a bad listing, but this one was pretty clear. It's almost as if they just like typed in the board game title. They didn't look at the listing. They did lowest price, purchase, and then moved on with their day, which is possible. Like people do that. I get people are busy and stuff like that. So, all right. So that's that one. And then the other one we got, I think it was a couple of days ago, or at least like almost a month ago, we sold like a floppy disk. It had a bunch of like games that someone like put onto the floppy disk, clearly described as what it was. The front picture literally shows that it's a floppy disk with just a bunch of stuff. We'll sell various lots of floppy disks. Sometimes we'll do them individually. Usually we do lots. And then the person couldn't figure out how it worked, so they messaged me, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, we'll do a return. So they were like, oh no, you can just send me a bunch of other games and we'll be good. And I was like, I just left that at that message because I already said like the next thing moving forward is a return. I gave them the solution and I just let it go from there. I could have pushed more and more on the return, but this person seemed pretty upset, and I already let them know that like I was pretty clear. I was like, oh, the only solution for us moving forward is to go ahead, return. I'll get your shipping back. I'll get all the money back. I just have to get the floppy disk back. And then a couple days ago, so that was like last month, a couple days ago, get a nasty negative basically saying we were like selling a completely fake floppy disk, all this information about it being fake and not real and stuff. So we also contested it. We also got that one removed because that was also incorrect. You can literally see our listing. It's just like, oh, floppy disk right here with the pictures and stuff like that. So yeah, you can contest negatives. Sometimes you win the cases, sometimes you lose them. This stuff doesn't really make me upset. And then also, Annetta is usually the one that deals with the contesting. Like she ends up being the one that does the official like statements and stuff to the customer service and stuff. So I don't actually deal with that. I just let her know what the whole situation is, from start to finish, like what happened with the messages, how I always talk about the returns, because we will take returns on anything. I think there was only 1 or 2 times where someone messaged, I just didn't take the return. I just like refunded it. And then I probably could have fought on those 2, but I was like, I'll call it a day. Usually a lot of people get upset about returns. They get upset about negatives, but I like to just like handle it right away and then move on and just start listing stuff, basically doing something productive. So it just doesn't sit there and bother me in my head. But I thought it was worth mentioning. People probably want to know how we deal with stuff like this. So I just thought it was worth mentioning. It really like it's expected in my head. I remember I used to bother Annetta more when we first started eBay. I'm like, no, you're selling stuff. You're gonna get a lot of issues. And then also the other thing, most of our issues are with new and brand new items. So I know there's a lot of sellers, or at least like brand new sellers and stuff. They'll talk about how they only want to sell new stuff because they don't want returns or issues. Almost 90% of our returns or issues are actually new things. I know this one was not, but we've had a lot. Literally most of the stuff is like sealed are the issues. Yeah, we had like a Blu-ray. I think everybody talked about it. Completely sealed, completely fine. They opened it up, watched it, and then said like the whole disc was scratched all over. They couldn't watch it. They actually returned it, and I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, there's no scratches on the disc. Like it's actually normal." So they did one of those, open it up, or maybe their DVD just wasn't working, or their Blu-ray or something. You never really know. And like the person who couldn't get the floppy disk, this floppy disk was like pristine. So you never know if it's just like customer user error. But that's not your field to like talk about or lecture to someone. You're not there to do like kind of like, what is it? Yeah, you're not there to do that type of tech help, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If you happen to know something, sure, go for it. But that is not your job on eBay. It's to describe an item and to ship it. And for it to get delivered, you are not obligated to tell someone how to run a PC game, how to run a GameCube game. You're not obligated to tell someone how to run a VCR, whatever else you're selling, DVD player. Like that's actually not your job. You can go above and beyond if you want. I'm not like a big tech person, so usually I tell people, I'm like, I actually don't know. Like, it's not in front of me. I need it to be in front of me for me to handle it. All right, that was a bunch of rambling. Let's get into the stuff that's sold. So I'm already past the returns and negatives. All right, so the first thing, I have to use my paper here because the laptop and other phone are dead right now, of course. All right, we got these Command Magazines, Triumph of the Will right here. These are going to be chit tokens for one of the war games. These are going to come in fuller, like little sheets right here, and then some of them will have multiple different games that these go to. Sometimes these are updates, sometimes these are just full-on games. This is from the Command Magazine, so this is half of it, but you can see the Triumph of Will tokens here. I think I put that this was incomplete. I think there are supposed to be more. People lose these tokens. They're really tiny, so they end up getting like replacements. This ended up going for $11.24. All right, next up is going to be the Star Wars Imperial Assault. This one took me forever to find because I didn't know I had more stuff, and I listed a bunch of this stuff recently. So when I was at the storage unit and I was looking at the sold listing, this is going to be the, it's like Echo Base Troopers Ally Pack, or maybe a Villain Pack. I think it's like a Villain Pack. Star Wars Imperial Assault is going to be a game by Fantasy Flight Games. It's not around anymore. It has a base game and like 70 expansions, mostly character packs. And one person is playing the Empire, and then all the other people are playing the Rebels. And you play like a full-on campaign game. Each session is probably 2 to 3 hours. You probably play one, and then you play the next one with your buddies next weekend. Or maybe you play 2 in a day, and then you end up doing like 12 to 14 different scenarios. Then you can buy a bunch of expansions for more different campaigns and scenarios. You can buy characters, different characters and villains to play. But yeah, this is just missing some stickers in there, which you sticker on to some of the, I think like the base tokens or whatever. So like this is basically almost a complete little expansion pack. This ended up going for $14.99. Some of these can go for a lot. I know one of them, like the most expensive, is probably $130. So it depends on what characters or villains you get. But yeah, this one I thought was in the wrong box because I saw my listing when I was at the storage unit for this one, or my SKU number. I'm like, I don't remember putting any of the Star Wars Imperial Assault stuff in that box. So I went through the box, couldn't find it at first. So like, you know what? I'm going to trust my gut that I made a mistake. And then I went to the other boxes that I listed them into recently, and then I couldn't find them. So I went back to the original box, found it, like, of course, on the bottom. So I almost thought I had to do a, what was it, like a cancellation, which was going to be brutal. I get pretty sad having to do cancellations, especially when it's like an error on my end. That's always the case for cancellations. It's my error. You know, I messed up the storage. like putting in the wrong bin, writing down the wrong custom SKU in the eBay SKU thing, or rarely, but once in a while, breaking an item, and then that's a disaster. All right, next up is going to be the Shogun. These are 92 red player pieces for the Milton Bradley board game Shogun right here. There are like a bunch of these like samurai figures. The person doesn't have to use this for the board game. Sometimes people just like different types of miniatures to paint or use for dioramas or whatever or games or whatever they want to use them for. So they might be using them for replacement. The Shogun game, I think I saw it recently. It's like this big boxed game right there. It's like one of those big chunky Milton Bradley games. These pieces end up going for $21.99. All right. Next up is going to be a book, Warplanes and Air Battles of World War I, right here, hardcover, coffee table book. Sorry, I have this weird wrapping on it to make sure it doesn't get dusty at the storage unit. Usually for the heavy books, I put them on the heavy duty shelves, and I put the boxes with the books on the lower part. So that's obviously where, like, you know, my feet can go and dust and germs, or not germs, like dust and, you know, like just stuff can get all over the place, you know, like when there's mud and stuff like that. So I always, just in case my shoes are messy and I start accidentally bumping into stuff with my feet, I want them wrapped up. But yeah, a lot of people like these military books. I talk about how I like the specific war. So World War I don't see that stuff as much. I see a bunch of World War II stuff. So someone wants to read up about these particular planes. Like I said, I like them when they're specific things. People are always picking them up from us. $13.49. Books have been doing pretty well for us. I think I'll do like a recap at the end of the year. We're almost there. There's a couple of months. Yeah, basically like a couple of months. I'm going to do a recap about like our top 5 categories, but I think books are in one of our top 5 categories for the whole year. All right. Next up is going to be D&D miniature cards. This is going to be a combo order. These are going to be 11 of like I think it was like the Frost Giant set or something. The set's going to be down in this little corner here, and it tells you what number it is. D&D miniature cards, where you would buy these boxes of miniatures that came with cards. It was a D&D miniatures game. And then there's also like gridded maps you can purchase and come with starter sets. It's a full-fledged game you can play. There's a bunch of expansions. People also use the miniatures just for playing actual D&D or other role-playing games. And people also like the cards because they have, not only do they have the rules for the game, but I think they're accurate to, I don't know what edition of D&D, and they also have like the stats in the back, and there's art on them. So the cards are kind of cool on their own. So there's a bunch of different sets. So there's a pack of 8 War of the Dragon Queen. This was from like a special like starter set or something. It wasn't like too fancy, but these were always like guaranteed of 8. And then these were 11 of a different set. So yeah, these end up going for $22. Got a bunch of those way before we started the channel. You guys would have lost your mind when I first listed a bunch of them, because there was like just a period where it was at least like 2 or 3 or 4 of those packets every day, or maybe every few days. I would have been constantly talking about D&D miniature card game, or the miniature game with the cards. All right, next up is going to be these bases. These are going to be 93 bases. They're 15/16 inch. I don't know if I said that. Almost an inch, basically an inch. These are square bases. People use, these are going to be metal ones. And then someone messaged me, they wanted to know if they were aluminum. And I'm like, I have no idea. And they're like, can you use like a magnet on it? So I was like, oh, I have like a little magnet in the other room. So I tested it with the magnet and it worked. I forgot that that's something you can do. It's kind of cool. Science stuff, you know. There's a lot of stuff people use to figure out different materials of things. I had fun. I was like, ooh, it's magnetized, it works. So I let them know that yes, and then they ended up picking them up, probably because people like to magnetize their miniatures to the bases sometimes, so they can do different designs in the bases, and then you can move the miniature. Let's say if you're playing a D&D game and you're in like whatever a lava area, you can have like a little lava base that you painted up, and then you can take the magnet from the bottom, so you're not ripping the base of the miniature, and then you go into like a frost room or something, then you put it on like a little frost base. People do a lot of crazy creative stuff with that. So yeah, people like picking up the miniature bases. I always talk about how I do the exact sizes for these bases, because people have specific scales for their miniatures. So obviously they can't put like a big giant on this, so they want to know what they are. So all my titles have like as much information about the size, color, and material. So 93 of these for $20. All right, next up is going to be, or last up, I must have skipped some. Yeah, I think I skipped some. All right, I'm all over the place today. We have the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition. This is from the starter set. This is going to be it was called Castles. So I don't know if it was a starter set, just like a box set. Castles. This is going to be one of the poster maps from it. Beautiful art. Unfortunately, I have it already sealed up, so I can't show you, but this thing folds out and you get to see like the full-on castle from like a bird's eye view. beautiful illustrations. Like I said, really like the art of this. But yeah, this ended up going for $10. Nothing too crazy. Like the whole box and probably the other stuff's gonna be more important. But I got like a couple of just the boxes, which I had listed because the beautiful castle art on the front. Also, Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition. That is just pure nerd history at this point. Very old stuff. I didn't play it like Dungeons and Dragons, like the older editions. My first Dungeons and Dragons experience was 5th edition, but looking at the art and all the old stuff, it is beautiful illustrations, and people do love it and play it to this day. There's a lot of people who played it when they were kids and stuff, you know, or like teens, or maybe even when they were in middle school and stuff like that. So it means a lot to a lot of people. All right. And then this thing right here is going to be Pathfinder Adventure card game, Skull and Shackles character add-on deck. So the Pathfinder card game is going to be this co-op game. I haven't played it. I heard it's really good. I look at it, it looks pretty good. I do occasionally find it relatively cheap. So at one point, I'm like, I'm just going to keep a copy for Annette and I. It's going to be a co-op deck building game where you're going to have a bunch of scenarios. So you buy a base set, you do a bunch of scenarios, you're building up your little character. You can play like probably like a gnome priest or something like that. And someone else can play like a warrior, a rogue, or a thief. So there's a bunch of different characters you can pick. You go through these scenarios with a deck of cards. So it's you and your buddies against the like scenario objective. And then once you get through the base game little campaign, there's a bunch of these like extra scenario packs. You can also buy all these extra character packs. And then also the Pathfinder Adventure card game, they did like a Skull and Shackles version, which I think is just like their pirate themed stuff. So you have the base game for that. And then you have a bunch of these expansions. So when I was at an auction, there was a Skull and Shackles base game being sold along with all of the expansions. That was basically just the title of it. So I kept bidding on it and then everyone else dropped out when it got to like the price of the base game. And I knew I'd be able to sell the base game. I don't know if I sold it yet. I think so. But also I knew that having all these little expansion packs, and there ended up being promo cards in there as well, was going to add up to be bigger and better than the base game as well. So I like to get base games when people have extra stuff. So I won the auction, and I was correct. I've been slowly selling these like character packs. I don't have the exact math on like how many of these character packs I sold, but I remember we did sell a lot of them at this point, and there was a lot in there. It was like almost all of them. So yeah, this is a character add-on deck. So you can, I think it's either one or maybe a couple character choices for the players for the co-op game. All right, last up for the day is this Eco HO scale, which I think is like going to be like for like the train stations or the train villages that people make. This is like a little Jeep. This one's made in Barcelona, Spain. This is just interesting to me because this is like the second or third made in Spain, either like military miniature. They're always like these like little, it looks like cheap toys that you would find maybe at like a market or something like that, or at a store, you know. Like we could find this kind of stuff in America. You just go to Walgreens, get like a cheap like car or something like that. I just picked a random store. But yeah, these have been selling. So I'm not sure if they're just like popular. People are collecting the made in Spain die-cast cars or these little toy cars, or if they just like the vehicle right here. So like third one I think I've sold in this month. So I have like I've run into this stuff like a little bit, like occasionally. It's a little rare. So this sold for $15. So someone's going to appreciate that. I'm curious what they're going to use it for, if it's going to be like a military setup or if they just like collecting them in the packages. I'm always thinking about like what people are collecting stuff for. I find it intriguing and interesting. All right. A lot of rambling, a lot of ranting. We're good. I'm good. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to help support us, take a look at our links down below. Hope everyone's having a good week so far.